aerospace and defense manufacturing,
machines and automation,
additive manufacturing,
smart manufacturing,
global manufacturing economy.
Welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals, powered by SME. From the design screen to the shop floor to final assembly, we drive the conversation about making manufacturing smarter by connecting people who are passionate about manufacturing.
Today's episode is sponsored by QuickBase, the leading application platform for dynamic work.
Hello, and welcome to Advanced Manufacturing Now, the podcast for manufacturing professionals. I'm Chris Mahar, Managing Editor at SME Media, and your host today. We're joined today by Anthony Alfredi, Director of the Customer Advisory Team at QuickBase, where he serves as a mentor and advisor to the manufacturing industry and leads a team of subject matter experts in construction, manufacturing, governance, and mobility. The Customer Advisory Team is composed of experienced liaisons and trusted advisors to corporations undergoing digital transformation. QuickBase is a no-code application platform designed for dynamic work. Their purpose is to make the complex simple by helping companies see, connect, and control their projects from day one to done. The platform lets you easily create, connect, and customize enterprise applications that fix visibility and workflow gaps without replacing a single system. Anthony earned his Bachelor of Science in Manufacturing Engineering in 1993 and Mechanical Engineering in 1994 from Worcester Polytechnic and a Master of Science in Engineering from Purdue University in 2005. Previously, he worked for Amazon as a senior manager in the AMZL startup, where he oversaw operational readiness for new last-mile facilities throughout the Midwest and Southeast. He implemented QuickBase there for KPI reporting and task automation within the engineering and launch organizations. Before that, he worked at Jeep Toledo Assembly, Ford Motor Company, and as the Director of Operations at Wavecrest Labs, a hybrid driveline development company. He currently serves in the U.S. Army as a Lieutenant Colonel at the United States Military Academy, West Point, and instructs EM 384, Analytical Methods for Engineering Management, during the summer semester in the Department of Systems Engineering to aspiring cadets. We're going to be talking about a wide range of manufacturing topics today, from current trends to shop floor management, people, safety, equipment, and maintenance, and the ever-important continuous improvement. Thanks for joining us, Anthony. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate being here.
So I know I gave a little bit of a background, but for those of our listeners who may not be aware of you or as much aware of QuickBase, can you introduce yourself and the company?
No, yeah, that'd be great. So I'm Anthony Alfredi, and like you mentioned before, I'm a subject matter expert in manufacturing on the Customer Advisory Team here at QuickBase. And as you mentioned, the Customer Advisory Team are folks that have spent numerous years inside of their respective industries, inside of construction, inside of manufacturing, government, where they have actually implemented QuickBase and use QuickBase. So we have this team that goes in, advises clients and prospects during their digital transition journey. And as we go along during that journey and discovery process, we pass on the lessons learned that we have and the mistakes that we've made so that we can help and assist our customers to avoid those mistakes.
It's always great when you're actually working with someone who has lived and used the product in the real environment.
Absolutely. And that's why we're here is to we've made enough mistakes and lessons learned so that we can help you actually get rid of those roadblocks and overcome those obstacles.
So clearly from your introduction, you have a very deep background in manufacturing and you're working with manufacturers. A lot of people are sort of asking, what are some of the big trends that are coming up in manufacturing right now? So what things are you seeing and what challenges do you see manufacturers facing?
Well, it's really interesting. I've been spending 26 years in manufacturing in between launching new products at Ford, running operations at the Jeep plant in Toledo, Ohio, and then launching new buildings and operations at Amazon. And during my career and during this period of time over the last 26 years, I've seen a lot of trends that have occurred. And The first one we need to talk about, the first trend, is all of the systems that are in place currently. We have, in manufacturing, we have an ERP system. We have an MES, manufacturing execution system, that tells us what the equipment is doing. But we have our maintenance, our CMMS applications that help us maintain and keep our equipment up and running. We have a quality management system that makes sure that our products are made right the first time. And then we have a PLM system or product lifecycle management system. Now, all of these systems are there for manufacturers to use and implement new products and manage their processes. And then the second piece of that we need to talk about in the first trend is that lean manufacturing and the continuous improvement methods that manufacturers have undergone over the last 30, 40 years has really implemented quite a significant change. So both of those, the computer systems that are supporting manufacturing and the continuous and improvement methods and methodologies that people are implementing inside of their factories, have leaps and bounds improved the overall throughput and quality. So that trend is fantastic. However, this is where it's starting to cause a problem. The data disparity with all those systems that I mentioned before, and the paper from all of the lean and continuous improvement methodologies that we're learning from Toyota Quality Management, Lean Six Sigma, we have all of this guidelines and formats that we're supposed to follow, has really overwhelmed and strained the operations team. And it's leading to, in my estimation, and actually in my practicality, a 25% productivity loss. And why is that?
Ouch.
Yeah, it's huge, 25%. And I know nobody works a 40-hour work week inside of manufacturing, but really what it comes down to is that the operations teams, the people, the supervisors and the maintenance managers and everyone else are spending, on average, 10 to 15 hours per week chasing data from all those different systems and all those continuous improvement methodologies. And it's really difficult. So if you're spending 10 hours a week on a 40-hour work week, that's a 25% productivity loss on your salary workforce. That's what I've been seeing, and that's what I felt at Jeep, where we had to implement these processes just to improve.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, it is a huge challenge. And what we consider that inside of QuickBase, and really the terminology that is that everybody's starting to use is gray work. It's all of that work that needs to get done just so you can figure out how to do your job. It's the joining of Excel sheets. It's the downloading of CSV files from all of that. That gray work is really overwhelming and causing a cognitive load problem on the salary staff. It's unbelievably large. Now, the second trend that I want to talk about, there's really three trends. So the three trends that I'm seeing, the second trend is we're asking the new workforce, the new Gen Z millennials that are coming in to manufacturing to work in 1990s tech. So all those systems I talked about before, ERP, MES, CMMS, are all based in 1990s tech, meaning that you have to go to a laptop, you've got to go to a desktop, they're all disparate, they don't talk to each other. And these folks that are coming into the workforce now are on a mobile-first technology, mobile-first behavior. Everything is in the palm of their hand. And we're saying that, nope, here's your Excel sheet. And there is a cultural clash right there because we're forcing them to do something that honestly is 30 years behind the times. And then the third trend that I want to talk about is the high turnover and labor pool competition. So during COVID, and I don't mean to bring COVID into the conversation, but it actually has long-term ramifications in manufacturing. Because what ended up happening during COVID is the veteran workforce actually retired out. And since everybody was working slow and the supply chains were all bogged down, we never had the ability to pass on those tribal knowledge and those lessons learned from the veterans to the new workforce. And then on top of that, the new folks that are coming in were also brought into new technologies that offer them a flexible work environment. So the Uber Eats, the DoorDashes, the Lyft and Uber infrastructure really allows the newer workforce, the people that are coming up and trying to create a career, to check their own hours. So you're having all these competitions on that labor force. Instead of going to work from 7 to 3, they say, hey, well, wait a minute. I don't really want to work those hours. I want to work these hours. And so that labor pool that used to be almost automatic is no longer automatic. So those are the 3 trends that I'm seeing, and that's where I'm at.
No, I mean, I think a lot of that really probably resonates with a lot of manufacturers, especially, you talk about all the data and trying to hunt that data down. And I sort of always tell people, there's a whole term of big data. And in my opinion, big data is worthless if you can't pull insights out of it. You could have all the data in the world, but if you can't actually boil that down to an insight that you can use, then you might as well have no data.
That's exactly right. Or you're spending it inverse proportional amount of time on it, and there's no return on investment.
So with these changes in both data aggregation and the amount of data that's starting to come in, especially as more shops are putting in sensors and additional machine monitoring, and with the changing workforce, how are you seeing the shop floor management change?
That's a great question. The shop floor management is the last bastion of paper. And what's happening is a convergence of not only the new workforce coming in and looking at it and saying, hey, paper is really bogging us down. And it's not up to date. It's not real time. And it takes a lot of time to actually collect all of that up. If you're going from team leader to team leader or from cell to cell or maybe building to building, you really don't have a real-time picture. So there is a change afoot that we're part of, that QuickBase is a part of, in shop floor management, where we're bringing all of that disparate systems and normal processes that we have to do on a daily basis just to get to find out whether or not we have the people in place, or whether we have the right safety audits done, to whether or not we have the right people working on the equipment. All of those working together is really where we're starting to see a trend and what we consider shop floor management. How can we make that better? Allowing folks to look at the whole picture on what is actually occurring on the shop floor.
So you pointed out really sort of 3 topics that I really pulled from that shop floor management, which is, your people, your equipment, and then safety. If we sort of break those down individually, what should leaders and what should companies be thinking about when it comes to their people and getting the most of their teams? And especially, I talk to a lot of manufacturers in my role, and there's not a single one who I guarantee you will not say their number one issue is people.
No, and I would agree with that. The number one issue for me is people, because people make it happen. But the issue with that is when you talk about that trend that we discussed earlier with the high turnover, high absentee, high transition, very transitional workforce right now, manufacturers are struggling, especially in one area, and that is shift startup and understanding if you have the right person on the right job at the right time. There's no tracking of skills, and there's no tracking of what we consider on-the-job training and expertise. Now, normally, if you had a veteran workforce, you didn't really have to worry about it too much. You just said, okay, I know this person's worked on this job for 2 to 3 years. They understand what the process is and the steps. And if in case there's a safety issue there, they know the job. So the experience with the tool and the safety mechanisms, then there's a lower chance of an accident. Now, with a newer workforce, and you're not sure who's there and who's on the job, it brings in a whole lot of variables. So what QuickBase has done is brought in a shop floor management tool that allows you to have a look ahead to see who's coming into work. Number one, if they're on vacation, if they're not on vacation, and then it adds on the whole variable thing at the start of shift. So when you check in on your job station, you're actually able to send a signal over to your supervisor and a heat map that will tell the supervisor whether or not that person is properly trained, has enough experience in that position. And in case not, then the supervisor can react to it before the shift starts and you start building, 300-400 units of something that could be bad quality or may worse, the employee might not be trained and do something incorrectly and end up with an ergonomic condition where they might be injured.
That's a great point, and I think it's really helpful for you to be able to see those things. I mean, Ford is currently dealing with an issue where they're having to look back at warranty work because people may not have had the right training and they're finding that it was done incorrectly. So that's a huge point that can really drag the performance of an operation down.
No, I 100% agree. And then to double down on the other subject you talked about, safety, the reporting mechanisms in a lot of the manufacturers, especially now since OSHA has instituted a electronic submittal process, if there is an ergonomic condition or somebody was strained on that job because they were untrained, or worse, got hurt, the manufacturers now have to follow the OSHA reporting schedules and the Form 300s and 301s. Now, those all have to be submitted electronically. You no longer can fax over like it used to be, fax over your Form 300 and say, here's my injury log for the day or for the month. Now you actually have to do all of that electronically. And we understand that and have built an application and a solution that can submit it out to the state agencies so that you don't have to do that anymore. It can all be done internally inside of QuickBase.
How can you sort of use that? I mean, a lot of people talk about manufacturing, and I think a lot of people who think about what I'll call old manufacturing is what we call the 3Ds, dark, dirty, and dangerous. And, that dangerous is a really key point, but modern manufacturers are really working to improve that safety and take out those risks. So what can a manufacturer do to help create a culture of safety awareness among their employees and really maintain compliance with those EHS and OSHA reporting regulations?
Well, there's two things that manufacturers are doing right now. Number one is not only from a behavioral standpoint, they're going through and making sure that it all starts with employees' behavior and the company culture. And if you're able to influence that, then the trend to get to an injury is a lot less. You will actually lower your chances of getting to an injury by instilling the proper behaviors. And how do you instill proper behaviors? Well, you do a lot of audits and you do a lot of double checking and you do a lot of, and it doesn't necessarily have to be routine audits. It could be, if you see something, say something. And the ability to write down an audit on your phone and saying, hey, there's an issue over here, take a picture of it, and then have it immediately worked upon. If it's a behavior issue, if somebody's not wearing their safety glasses, making sure a supervisor, it might not be your employee, it might be somebody else's employee, but tagging that employee and saying, hey, go over there and have a conversation with them, because it not only can they get hurt, but we really don't want to have a hurt person because it brings everybody down. So those behaviors are the ones that can be fixed with an audit software like we have. And you go through and not only can you do scheduled audits, but you also could do 5S checklists, making sure that all of the stuff is put away properly, because if you're following 5S, you're lowering the chances of someone tripping on something. And then you're able to do spot checks utilizing a spot report, and that's all done in the same software.
Having started my career in manufacturing in a small shop building pallets by hand, where if OSHA ever came in, they would have been able to buy everybody gold desks. I'm sure that is greatly appreciated by a lot of the employees these days.
No, 100%. Yeah. And the fact that it's mobile and you can take pictures and it's so seamless on your phones now, it's a huge advantage to do it. Not to do it is a mistake.
Absolutely. So of those sort of three key topics that you brought up when you were talking about shop floor management, clearly people are probably the top of, what's causing and what leads to the success of an operation. But those people also have to have the right equipment, and the equipment needs to be running correctly and at its best. I know, you'll talk to shop owners and you'll ask them about their machine uptime. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'm at 80%, but I need to go buy a new machine because I'm running into just too many issues. And you do an audit and you're like, oh, you're actually probably more at 35%. And if you make some changes, you really don't need to spend $1.5 million on a new machine. So how is QuickBase addressing helping improve those equipment operations?
So there's two ways that we do it. Number one, through our shop floor management tool, we can intake actions. If something is going wrong, we can notify the maintenance staff through shop floor management and set up a event. The second piece is doing it through a maintenance protocol or maintenance program, and we have a CMMS, computerized managed maintenance system, that allows all the equipment, all the assets to have a scheduled maintenance program for each piece. And then on top of that, you got to make sure that you have the right spare parts, you have the right skilled trades working on the machines, all of that program, and ensuring that you have a maintenance schedule for preventative maintenance, not reactive maintenance, because that's exactly what you're talking about, will ensure that your equipment availability goes up. And then if your equipment availability goes up, then your overall OEE, your overall equipment effectiveness is going to go up. And then your part quality is going to go up because you're going to be able to make a good quality part off of a piece of equipment that actually is maintained. So all of those things come together, but when it comes right down to it, the visibility of knowing what's being maintained, who's maintaining it, and when it's being maintained, all needs to happen. And that's what QuickBase provides. And it doesn't just provide it for the maintenance person. It actually provides it for everybody on the shop floor. So anybody can go in there and say, hey, wait a minute, this machine is being worked on at this point in time. Maybe we need to shift over here so we can work on this cell and build up a batch while they're working on it. It allows everyone, including the adjacent departments, to see what preventative maintenance is being done. And then on top of that, the beauty of a CMMS platform is that you can start trending out of it, and you can see, like you said before, am I at 35% or am I at 85%? And that's where all of those numbers really start to come together.
So I think one of the pieces that really ties all of this together, and especially as you talk about so many systems are still built on 1990s tech, but yet we're trying to attract folks who grew up with iPads as small kids and playing with those. And that technology aspect really leads into that continuous improvement and constantly reevaluating your operation. So as manufacturers look to do that, how can they help identify some of those bottlenecks, find the root causes of an issue and implement those continuous improvement concepts into their operations?
A great question. So the two other trends that we talked about before, all those data disparity issues, in order to implement a continuous improvement program, you have to know what your baseline is. And if you can pull in all that data, pull in your OEE, pull in your part quality data, your first time capability, pull in your performance, see what your actual throughput is. If we're able to pull all those in from all those disparate systems, then you can start trending and get a baseline. Now, to connect all those systems together, you're going to need an API, maybe you need an OBDC driver, maybe you need some sort of custom Lambda script, whatever it may be, you need to connect them together so that you can get a trend chart, so that you can move forward fast. Otherwise, you're going to be doing the gray work that I just described earlier and continue along that path, and you'll never get above the level that you need to be because you plateaued and you can only do so much work. With QuickBase, all of that work and all of that CSV file download is all done by that computer talk I just talked about earlier. All of the API functions and everything else. It connects up all those disparate machines together. So what am I getting to is that in continuous improvement, the baseline of a continuous improvement is actually a project or a Kaizen. And a Kaizen follows a PDCA format, plan, do, check, and act. Now, in the plan phase, you're actually looking at the project and the problem from the baseline data. And then you're moving into the do phase, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change out this bearing, or I'm going to improve this ergonomic condition. Kaizen can be used for a variety of different things. And then during the check phase, after you've implemented the change, the check phase is actually pulling in all of that data from those disparate systems, and then looking at the trend chart after the change went in place. Did I make it better? How much did I make it better? Is there any more room for improvement? Now, doing that all on paper is difficult and it's time consuming. But inside of our Kaizen application, pulling all that information in, you can actually see the time that you implemented a project, the corresponding trend charts, and then if you need to make a change, you can make it in real time rather than waiting for a couple weeks until there's enough data to download to pull it all in. You're able to do it all then and there. And that helps the continuous improvement flywheel get even better.
One of the things that really jumped out to me about QuickBase and as you've been talking and with some of the research I've done before is that no-code platform. And can you just talk a little bit? I mean, usually when you talk with folks, especially who aren't in manufacturing, and you mentioned manufacturing, they're thinking of a giant company like General Motors or GE that is just massive. But, when you talk about the number of manufacturers in the United States, over 75% of them have less than 50 employees. And so how does technology with like the low or no code software enable these smaller manufacturers who may not have a full IT department or programmers on staff to be able to benefit from, the Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing technology that's now flooding the market?
That's a great question. So honestly, what it does for small to mid-sized manufacturers, a no-code platform like QuickBase gives them the ability to build out all of the applications that we talked about before, but for a fraction of the cost. So there's two ways you can do it. You can build the applications yourself, and if you're very adept at Excel and you understand Excel formulas and how Excel works and kind of have a database mind, kind of like a file cabinet, then you're able to build applications. And then with a no-code solution, within QuickBase, I taught 160 salaried engineers how to program in QuickBase within 3 days. And I'm not lying, that's the actual truth. But the other piece of that is, if you didn't want to spend that time or you didn't have the resources to do it, we do have the ability to go into the Exchange. It's in our app store, and you can pull down and start utilizing pre-built applications right from the get-go. Now, there's no fee to that. If you went out and you had to go buy a ERP system like SAP, it's millions upon millions of dollars. Now, a mid-tier manufacturer or a mom-and-pop job shop, they can't do that. But with QuickBase, you can, because it's there and it's available, and it can get you to the same level that these large-scale manufacturers, these Fortune 50 companies, are dealing with. And then on top of that, the one more thing I want to add, Chris. So you mentioned Industry 4.0. Well, what comes with Industry 4.0 is IoT. The Internet of Things, and all of these little smart devices can now be connected for pennies into your equipment. You can go buy sensors, and you can connect to the web, and then if your sensor is saying, hey, come change me, you can actually get an alert through QuickBase. Now imagine going out to a large-scale manufacturer and say, hey, I'm going to implement that. You're going to have a whole team. But now you don't have to do that. With a no-code, you can go do it yourself in a matter of minutes.
I think that's really critical, and I think these types of software and capabilities are really what's going to help move manufacturing in the United States forward by helping those small and mid-sized manufacturers be able to leverage these technologies. Well, Anthony, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. It's really been an engaging and informative conversation. If listeners did want to learn more about QuickBase, where should they go?
So before we end it, that's a great question. I want to invite everybody that's listening to the call to our biggest flagship event. It's on May 8th, and it's called Empower. It's from 10 a.m. to 4:45 p.m., and it's free. It's virtual, so you can log into it. So some of the topics that we talked about today, Chris, we're actually going to talk about the applications. We're going to talk about demos all during that period of time. So if they want to come in and check out other use cases and other manufacturers like Valmet and Daifuku, then we have all that content readily available. They can check out the use cases, and then you can see what we're tackling. And if they have any questions, you can always hit me up at QuickBase at www.quickbase.com, and please register for Empower. Thank you.
Awesome. Hopefully folks will take advantage of that. And to stay up to date with what's happening in manufacturing today and hear more podcasts, visit us at advancedmanufacturing.org.